I'm Scott Bowling.
I'm Kurt.
I'm Carl.
I'm Chris.
And you are watching Good Company.
Company.
Good company!
Hey guys, my name's Scott Bowling and you're watching Good Company. Today we have a special episode. We have my good friends. We have Chris returning back to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, brother. We got Kurt returning back to the show.
Nice to meet you.
We have Carl returning back to the show. Carl takes photos.
Every time.
Yeah. I've known him since I was 5 years old. No, I'm just kidding. I've known you since how long? Well, I was 15 maybe?
15, 16, something like that.
So we got good friends. Today we're going to pick our favorite albums that inspired us, that made us want to be who we are. So Chris, who do you want to be? I'm just kidding. What's your first pick, Chris?
I think my first record that I ever bought, was a tape back then, was Misfits. It was Walk Among Us, I believe. And that was my introduction to rock and roll or punk rock or whatever you want to call that. To me, it was rock and roll. And I learned every song. I knew them all by heart on that whole record. And I think that later on, whenever Danzig came out with his first record, that was very much an impression upon me. It had a lot to do with evolution, because I seen what he was with the Misfits and then, what he became. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah. Kind of went his own way. And
yeah, there was a lot of...
Did Sam Hain, were you like Sam Hain?
Oh, yeah. Well, I got into Sam Hain after I learned who Danzig, was with, the Eerie Von and John Christ and Chuck Biscuits, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. It was on that first one, so...
How do you find out about Misfits on your own? Like, did somebody help you?
Yeah, man, somebody did. I was friends with Miguel, and there was a girl that we both had a crush on. So she was like, take me shopping, and of course I was like, okay.
She didn't ask Miguel, she asked you.
Right.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So we went to a local record store. I think bands played there too sometimes, and that's what they had. She showed me which CD to buy, and she put me on the path. So thank you, Cindy.
Yeah, Cindy's awesome, dude.
And I was stuck on that for a long time, for years, man. And I think I went and saw Danzig maybe 3 times that year, and eventually got into playing music with some more people. And I believe that the one musical endeavor that inspired me the most was probably Opiate by Tool. I think there was a lot in that I felt on an organic level, on a spiritual level. I think everybody kind of felt that way about that record.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
So, and that one, again, taught me a lot about evolution, where a person's in one place and the music is able to take them to another place, So...
Well, hey, so going back to Misfits, though, what I love about Misfits is I got into when I was first learning how to play instruments, and they're the kind of music that you learn easy. Like We Are 138 was the very first song,
right?
And I was like, oh, I can play this. It's actually, it's not like Rush or nothing,
Yeah,
it's like accessible.
It's
accessible.
But you can do it.
Every song is catchy too.
Yeah.
Right.
I love when Misfits had the second singer, and back in like American Psycho. I don't know if you guys listen to that, but. Anyway, I'm kind of going off, but it was a different singer, but it's still a catchy album. And Misfits are actually touring again with David Lombardo, right? Am I saying his last name? From Slayer.
Lombardo,
Yeah.
playing drums. And AC Slade's playing guitar with him, too.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I love how that they're coming back, it's amazing. I haven't seen it. I want to.
Go to an arena and see it now.
Yeah.
It used to just be in a
Las
small
Vegas.
club. Now you can catch them now. It's
really
big
cool.
time.
That's awesome. And so, Kurt, what's the first pick you got?
The first pick, and we were talking earlier, about influence and, like Chris was saying, taking you from one place to another. For me, probably the biggest one would be Wasp, The Crimson Idol. Just because of the time it came out, that had to have been somewhere in the neighborhood of about 92, 93, just a big time of change for me personally and in a lot of different ways. And I remember putting that record on, first of all, waiting for it to come out because I was a Wasp fan. And back in those days, they had dates. So you'd go to your record store and they'd have it written up on a chalkboard, like whatever day this is coming out. I remember getting it that day, putting it in, and it just told a story. The story that felt like me. It was, Jonathan, the lost boy, blah, blah, blah. That was me, and I always related to that record. I would always go back to it. as a young kid, I'm depressed, and you listen to it start to finish, and like, yeah, now I feel a little bit better.
That's cool.
So that was a big one for me.
When it came out, did you buy it like on vinyl or is this on cassette?
No, cassette first, always.
Oh, yeah.
That was even before. I think before I even had a good CD player. I may have had a little boombox type one.
Did you have buddies
cassettes.
Would you ever do like tape trader and stuff like that?
Absolutely, please nobody sue me, but yeah, we used to make copies all the time, and then those get bad, and then we might take a cassette that we didn't like, we paid money for cassette, didn't like it, so we'd put tape over the tabs, and we'd tape over.
I remember
your Ace of Base,
Ace of Base,
that was my. I'm sorry, that's one I probably taped over, but yeah,
that's cool.
But yeah, we made copies all the time, or sitting there. We even used to do having two radios before they had the dual cassette. You'd have two radios, and one would play, and you'd have to tape that one. And my wife will tell this story too all the time because it happened to her. You'd have to have everything quiet, and then you'd hear noise downstairs. You'd open, stop making noise! I'm trying to tape up here. Like you got a fucking recording studio going at your house. I'm showing my age, but that stuff really happened.
Well, it's cool that Kurt and Chris, man, you guys were both in bands in Atlanta, and I'm kind of taking it for a turn right here. But Kurt, when did you first start playing in Atlanta? I mean,
I moved here in '98.
'98. Oh, okay. So yeah. And Chris, you've been playing music forever, right?
Yeah, man. I was raised in church, so that was the thing. Learn the instrument, learn how to preach, learn the instruments.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
You can preach to beat the band, though, too.
Right.
Carl's first pick, man. What you got?
You may go serious or you may go impactful.
Anyone, man.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go Deftones Adrenaline.
Yeah.
This is my serious pick. This album hit me at a time when I really needed the music. Buddy of mine, Andy Eberhardt, he introduced them to me, and it blew me away at the time. Just completely blew me away. And then he got hit by a car and killed. And then later on, my father died in a car wreck, and a lot of turmoil during that time. And there was a certain track, Fire Real, track 10, off Adrenaline, and I just repeated this album, repeated it constantly. Being bullied for a stutter I had, being bullied, just so much turmoil, so much hate, so much just pressure going on. It came to me putting a rifle in my mouth. And that song, I played that song as my favorite song. This is my first public telling of this story, and it feels good to get it out. But this song impacted me more than anything in the entire world. And I miss my father, but I love my son, I love my wife, I love my friends, my family. And Fire Real, it pulled the rifle from my mouth, and I put it down, and I never tried it again. And that's got to be the one album that is the reason I'm still here. So,
dang, that's deep, man.
Wow,
that's good. So you had that song just on repeat, and just
I had the album on play. I just started it from the beginning with Bored, and went all the way to that, and just like sitting there, just in my room, thinking about the years and the bullying, the depression. My father passing, he was my best friend. He was my scoutmaster. He saw me through my Eagle Scout, and then he introduced me to the music that I love today, like through the Beatles, CCR, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, all that kind of stuff. And it just happened that way, and that song came on, and the lyric, I want to be much some more, came on, and that's when I put the gun down. I want to be more than I am. I want to be something better. So that's it. I'm sorry to bring the party down.
No, man,
that's the one. That's the reason I'm here, and that's why it's on my arm.
There you go. That's the question.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. Love that.
Back to you, Scott.
Yeah, follow that.
Sorry, brother.
Glad you're still here. You have
kids. I mean, you know, you've got bands like Primer 55, you got bands like Stain, you got friends like Scott.
No, yeah.
I mean, we've been to so many Deftones shows together, at least 15, 16 together.
Yeah, man, we were obsessed, dude.
And then seeing Stain when I was in that kind of limbo period as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, thank you, Chris, for the music, man, because that's the music that brought me out of my shell. That's the music that saved my life.
Thank you, man.
And the influences that were on you and the influences that, you know, I had this rage in me that I had to get out, and that it helped. Yeah. I got to thank you for that. So,
man,
without metal, man, and without good friends,
Metal.
I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, when I think about my first choice, I do think of Chris, man, because mine was definitely it was like Deftones for sure. I mean, I was obsessed. That's when me and you were friends.
And that was our first connection. Like, I think I was wearing
and
a
Andy
Deftones
Everhart, the guy you...
Yeah, Andy introduced us.
Yeah, he was a buddy of mine.
And I was wearing my Deftones Dickies logo shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to that show together, and it's just like...
Yeah, it's connection. But yeah, I stole Carl's answer, and I'm going to steal your next answer. I'm just kidding. Deftones is my first pick. Deftones your pick. No, the next one, what's up, man? Is it Danzig?
Well, you know, after I listened to the Misfits and Danzig, I think that the next thing that got to me was Tool, Opiate. I think that got to everybody. It was like hit the spot, you know, because I think that we as kids, we were just kind of lost in a certain way. Like we knew what we liked, but we really didn't know what we wanted, you know. And that album kind of brought into view where I needed to work personally, you know, as far as my music, which parts I needed to improve and such like that, you know. Plus, it's just a really
Maynard's amazing. It's just the vocal. And when you were singing, when did you first realize you could sing? You know what I mean? That's
Miguel made me do that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I was a
part of the
drummer.
past.
You know, I play drums in a group now, as well as do vocals and guitar for Stain. But I started out as a drummer, so
That's cool.
yeah, Miguel started out as a guitar player. So when we evolved to a different place in life, I think that he was wanting me to do vocals, and he switched to another instrument. He switched to bass. So, and that's whenever we started putting together Stain.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, whenever I was in church as a child, my dad was on the radio broadcast and stuff. You know, here's 5-year-old Christopher Chambers singing "Go Tell It on the Mountain." You know, so I got like this box of tapes of me singing all these.
Oh, really? I'd love to hear that.
It's insane.
Yeah, we should make that the intro.
I shouldn't have told you now.
Yeah, dude. That's gonna be our new intro. Yeah. Hey, we used to at that little church. Was that your dad's church?
Yeah.
I never knew that. I mean, I knew the church was there, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a long history behind that church, and I think that's the church he attended whenever he was a teenager. Oh, wow. And he went through seminary and came back and took over that church and was able to work in that community with the Spanish people and do missions and things like that. So
you always had church growing up? That was
yeah, man. Dad was always in there in his Bible, reading stuff, writing stuff, putting together, you know, radio broadcasts or whatever. So yeah.
Cool, man. Okay.
I always remember seeing that church, driving by it.
Yeah.
And I was like just intrigued by what it was, because it was just kind of in the middle of this little neighborhood.
Yeah.
It was just kind of sitting there behind that motel that's still there.
Yeah.
That's like that, like
pretty bad
that
side of town.
1960s like horror movie hotel.
Right.
You know, and it's like I just like it's, you know, it was always sitting there. I was just like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
And then I heard y'all started playing music in it.
Yeah, that was fun.
I was there when you guys played music. I was like, is this wrong? Like, I'm drinking a beer. I'm like, you know?
Yeah.
That was some good
Any
times.
spot's a rehearsal spot.
Yeah, dude. All right, Kurt, what was your next one?
The second one, again, just a damn good record, but also life-changing, would be Guns N' Roses' Appetite. That just embodied everything. When I heard that, everyone says, you know, hey, that's a moment you knew you wanted to do this for the rest of your life or whatever. That was kind of it for me. I mean, I was always a fan of music, but that made it tangible. You know, I wanted to play like them. I wanted to drink like them. I wanted to be fucked up like them. I wanted to get in trouble like them. You know, all that stuff was real attractive until you're actually doing it. And then it wasn't quite as attractive. But they say that was what rock and roll was
See, that what's crazy about that is like Appetite came out, what, in 88 or 87?
Yep.
So you bought it when it first came out? I mean, you were...
You know what's funny is in Philadelphia, out in Allentown, there was a venue called the Airport Music Hall. A bunch of my BMX buddies and I went to see a EZO, if you remember them, a Japanese heavy metal band. They were opening for Guns N' Roses. And Airport Music Hall, what used to be an old Kmart. So a real small venue. We went to see EZO and we just hung out for Guns N' Roses. And they came on, just blew me away. You know, so again, seeing them from a small place like Allentown, like the Airport Music Hall. I think the next time we saw them was after Appetite was out, and it was Tower Theater was the next, you know, maybe 2,000-3,000 seater. And then, you know, after that, they were opening for Aerosmith, and then they were headlining. And so I saw all of those things. Plus, in '88, I moved out to LA, and Guns N' Roses was just everywhere.
So you were there, like
everything.
On Sunset Strip.
Yeah, you were there in the
They
prime.
owned KNAC. So, like I said, it was tangible.
Did you, man? You must have got sucked up in that. Like, I just wish I could go back in time and be on the strip for a weekend.
It was really cool. I did get to see, I got to go to Tower Records, got to see the streets just crammed with people. The no lie with the people putting up
I love
flyers
that.
and then ripping them down and putting them back up. You know, it was all of that. And I thought it was just as easy as moving out to LA from Philadelphia, moving out to LA with a guitar, and then I thought you just got famous. I thought that's all it took. You learn real quick. That's not not how it works. And I came back to Philly about 8 or 9 months later with still the same guitar in my hand, a drug habit, and no money.
Okay. So Kurt, Carl. I keep messing everybody's name up.
As we look so much
So
alike.
White Claw. It's all good. We got our producer here, Nathan. That's not actually. I'm gonna call it Julian, Nathan, and Carl Kurt.
2 words, White Claw.
One claw, yeah, White Claw. This episode's brought to you by. We got about 10 drinks behind Kurt over here. Yeah, there it is.
And a koozie?
Yeah.
Yes, and a koozie.
The koozie. So, can you follow up Fire Ale? What's your next one?
Well, I can't choose between the two. It's going to be Beatles, Rubber Soul / Revolver. They were back-to-back albums. Takes me back to my father's again, but his musical influence on me, listening to the oldies station, Fox 97. If you're from Georgia, if you understand what that is, Randy and Spiff in the morning and all that stuff. Yeah. Fox 97. I went to the Georgia Dome a couple times and saw their big shows and saw the Temptations and Supremes play, and it's just like seeing the Monkees and seeing stuff like that you hear on the radio and seeing these bands that are still, together at the time, pretty cool. But the Beatles, Rubber Soul, and Revolver, that era, late 65 to 66. I don't know, those 2 albums, I just put this on my Facebook actually, just as a random post, but I think they encompass the greatest of album creation. They should almost be a double album. Because there's very John Lennon-esque tendencies to it. They're a little bit sad. I kind of tend towards the John Lennon as opposed to the McCartney. And I've got John Lennon on my arm. My son's name is Lennon. So, I don't know, those albums you've got albums like And Your Bird Can Sing. You've got In My Life. You've got the song Girl. There's a lot of that's kind of when the Beatles started getting really kind of away from the bubblegum pop into the darker, more poetic aspects of their lives. And
they did that quick too, right?
Yeah, and they did it.
Span was.
You had 64, which was Meet the Beatles, and that album up there on the wall there. Meet the Beatles to starting to get darker and darker and darker. And in 7 years, what they created was just the span of 63, 64 to 70 was just, and the way they changed each album to each album And me and Taylor had the same conversation earlier. It's just like incredible what they created in 7 years, and it's just that's where I'm going to leave it. I mean, it's the Beatles. I can't say much more.
My next pick is the Beatles. My next one would probably be, I was thinking like Tom Petty, but Tom Petty's greatest hits. My mom had the greatest hits on cassette, and I remember like when she would take me to like baseball practice or any kind of, every time I got in the car, I had that freaking Tom Petty greatest hits. That's a great album, man. I mean, it's just like every song. I mean, I know the Eagles did like greatest hits, and I kind of miss those greatest hits.
Yeah, like even the Beatles, the Red and the Blue greatest hits, or those just. Now it's like, if you think about it, like now
such thing as a hit.
Now it's like when bands put out greatest hits, that's like, oh, they're getting dropped.
It's more of the best.
It's an obligation record.
Yeah.
It's like more of the best of, because it's like Typo Negative did the least worst of Typo Negative, and they were being dropped by Roadrunner Records at the time.
Yeah.
And it's like you have like the very best of, or it's not the greatest hits, it's the best of. And it's not.
That's a great point.
I loved their take on that. The least worst of.
The least worst,
which is hilarious.
Do you guys like Tom Petty? My wife and I actually saw him, before he passed.
That's amazing.
Can't deny good songs.
You can't deny good songwriting.
I like him because he's not like a typical singer. I mean, he just seems like, I don't know, he had a different voice. I love his videos. I grew up an MTV guy. I love seeing Last Dance with Mary Jane. And
I mean, the album Wildflower, that was a huge album when it came out.
And Johnny Depp was in one of his videos too, remember that?
Yeah.
Just remember that You Got Lucky.
You Got Lucky. Yeah, so good.
Futuristic. She had like opening up everything was in plastic, and Mike Campbell opens up it was like an old Gresh or something guitar, but it had old Bigsby tremolo, and I remember that's the first time I heard like that bow, wow, wow.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
I need one of those.
Yeah, they need like a good Tom Petty cover band. I
think there is one out. There's a tribute band.
Probably
there has to be a tribute band that plays at the 37 Main at some point, I'm sure.
Just do the greatest hits album.
Just do the greatest hits.
All right, so Chris, what's your third one?
Okay. Well, Live of Agony's first record was another one, man. I'll tell you what.
I got it framed right over there.
Yeah.
River Runs Red, man.
Absolutely. We would get together. And
love that album.
We would, honest to God, all those that were in the band with me, we would make time during the week to sit in the dark room with candles and put that CD on, and nobody say a word, and just listen to it from beginning to end. One solid time. Everybody just take it in. And
total concept record.
Man, there's like a themed like Mastodon done with what's the record they did with the Moby Dick theme?
Oh, Leviathan.
Right, thank you. Kind of like that. It was like very themed, and everything was like placed. They had the little intros with the
fantastic album.
Yeah. So
they actually Life Agony, their last album, they continued on with that. With that same River Runs Red. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a different vocalist though, wasn't it?
No, same.
Was it?
Yep.
It's different sex now.
I said, which record was it?
It's not Keith anymore. It's
Nina.
Yeah, you're right.
This started with a feather boa. I seen the feather boa, didn't I?
It was River Runs Red, and then it was, what was the second album? What was the album after that?
Man, I
was
can't.
it Ugly? Or?
Ugly, that's
Ugly.
it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, they got a few albums, but the thing, like, they kind of changed their style up, right? A little bit, it wasn't as heavy as their old stuff.
Yeah, I could have sworn I've seen them with a
you know what, though? You were thinking Life of the other
You're
one
right.
that Whitfield Crane sang for.
Yes,
for a bit.
that's the first time I saw Seven Dust was with Whitford Crane,
Yeah.
And it was at the Masquerade. Yeah, I saw that.
See?
Yeah,
thank you, man. Yeah, I was like, no way. They've always had. You're right.
Not the same.
But
yeah.
they didn't record though with Whitford Crane, right?
I think they did do a record with
They
them.
did?
I think they did, didn't
It
they?
sounded like it to me, man.
Well, anyway, their latest album is kind of a continuation from that. But I love River Runs Red, man.
Absolutely.
Great choice.
That's one of those breakthrough records, like the first Danzig record, the first Tool record, the first Rage Against the Machine record, like all these
Yes,
breakthrough
the first
records.
Rage, all that.
Yeah.
The thing about Life Agony that I love is like they came around when Biohazard. There was just a whole new sound, like a New York kind of. It was really cool.
And then it was really cool when Stereo Mode came out because you've got two of the founding members.
Yeah, Joey Z and
Joey Z.
Corey Lowry and Eric Rogers.
And like it was like LOA meets Atlanta metal, so it's kind of like
it was awesome.
It was kind of cool. It was kind of cool.
Birth of Stereo might second band I had on this show. Yeah. On this episode show.
Yeah.
On this episode show. White Claw.
Episodic television.
All right, man. Kurt.
Number 3, when you went in the petty direction, that made me think I was going to go with a standby of Kiss, but after much thought, I'm thinking second Wolf Mother record, Cosmic Egg.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the songwriting, again, because of the relatability. I just think, as a musician, there are certain people and certain artists that you just connect with. You'll hear something and you're not going to love everything they do, but you're going to relate to everything they do. And like with Wolf Mother, as a guitar player, it's like I can kind of hear a song and just know where they're going with. Like if I'm trying to play along to a Wolf Mother song, it's pretty easy to figure where they're going because either I think that way or something, but it digs in you. And like I said, that one I just relate. And Chris was mentioning, and so was Carl, just records top to bottom. That's one of the things I think is missing in music today. Any band that puts out a record, it's tough to listen to start at track 1 and get all the way to the end and not have to skip through or go through stuff. That's one I can listen to top to bottom.
Yeah, it's a collection of songs.
Yeah, and they thought about it. They made an album.
Exactly.
And, that's a lost art now. Anymore it seems like a lot of bands, we got to put 15 songs on there or they're not getting their money's worth or whatever. We got to make it an hour and a half long. The old days, think the old Van Halen record, 14 minutes aside, all great, I
mean, I hate to go back to the Beatles, but the White Album, it's like they had so many songs, but they put it all together in a continuous piece.
There you go.
And like Metallica with Reload and Load, or Load and Reload, they wanted to do a double album. The record company didn't want to, so they had to put them out in separate. And they gave them the best first, they wanted to sprinkle it through, or Smashing Pumpkins, Machina.
I was going to say that, yeah.
And
Remember Smashing Pumpkins?
Smashing Pumpkins, Machina 1 and Machina 2, they were supposed to put that out as a double album.
Oh, okay.
But the record company didn't want to do another double album after Adore.
No, it wasn't Adore. It was before that, right?
It kind of flopped.
Adore, I see. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
but Melancholy was
Melancholy. That's what I'm trying to think
the biggest selling double album of all time.
That's back when everybody bought CDs. It was that big clunk of CDs.
But Machina 1. But I've heard that they're doing a proper release of Machina, so it's going to be they're going to mix Machina 1 and 2 together with the way it was supposed to be put out. So It's a continuous thing. It's supposed to be a work of art as opposed to an item to sell.
Yeah.
See, that could have been the topic. Albums.
It should, yeah.
True and real albums.
Yeah. It could have been.
So what's your, is that your third?
No. Sorry, I didn't take this. My third would be Ride the Lightning by Metallica. Me and my friend Matt Hurd, I was probably 6 years old. Really big into G.I. Joes and Hot Wheels at the time, obviously, because I was 6 years old. He had 2 older cousins, Michael and Dennis. So he apparently stole their white cassette tape of Metallica's Ride the Lightning and brought it in. We were setting up for this epic G.I. Joe battle. We're setting snipers up and like tanks and all this stuff. And he's like, Carl, you need to check this out. I'm going to go with the voice because we're 6 years old. We're not like, hey, Carl, check this out. Hey, check this out, Carl. And then like he puts it on the wrong side, and it's fade to black. That was my first introduction to anything, anyway, metal. But it kind of fit with my love of like the darker 60s Beatles kind of stuff, and it just impacted me. And that album today is still one of my favorite albums. Front to, it's only 8 tracks, but it's It's just perfection.
I love that you say that because so many people always pick Master of Puppets. So
No,
it's cool. Master of Puppets, great album too.
Like it's a mix between you have Master here and you have Kill 'Em All here, but you've got Ride, and it's kind of a mix of the thrash and the polish, and it's just, to me, it's just the perfect. I don't know. It's just they created that in the studio, and it's just perfect. It's a perfect 8 tracks, and I love Master of Puppets. I love Kill 'Em All. I love all of it in some way, but those 8 tracks just it feels so cold. It feels so dark. It feels so, and Fade to Black, obviously, being a person who struggles with depression, it's very impactful. And even at 6, it was very impactful. Just the melody and the way they, James was talking about that stuff, it's.
I'm shocked by the maturity and insightfulness Carl had as a 6-year-old.
I mean,
That's good. Yeah.
like as soon as that.
You should have said all that in your 6-year-old voice.
As soon as that started. As soon as that. And it's just so classical, and I loved Beethoven at the time too. I was into classical, and it just feels so old but so new, and it's just, I don't know. It's just always, that's always the one that kind of started my role in this, into heavier music.
Yeah. Until Chumbawamba.
Yeah, Chumbawamba, man, that's number 4 for sure.
Then Carl went home and he did the G.I. Joe swimming in the water.
Yes. That's good, dude. That's good. So my last, it's funny because I got so many frame stuff everywhere. So I'm like, what's my third one? Foo Fighters. Foo Fighters over there. But the first Foo Fighters album I absolutely loved from start to finish. And that came out when I was 15 or 16. I loved Nirvana, and it was just like a continuation. Continuation is probably not a good word, but it was a fresh start, I don't know if you guys love Nirvana. I feel like Dave Grohl is like that guy.
I love
He's
Nirvana.
the bucket list of,
Dave Grohl as a songwriter is phenomenal.
And he did that whole record, that whole first Foo Fighters
That whole first record
is
by
him.
himself is almost like the
Yeah.
Filter or 9 Inch Nails, like his first couple records. It's like he was his band, like Trent Reznor or Richard Patrick. It was like
Richard Patrick. Yeah, that's why
that was their
Filter.
baby. Because the first.
And he called it Foo Fighter. He could have called it Dave Grohl.
I think he did that. I heard a story. He did that because he didn't want anybody to know that it was him.
He was doing it,
when he was giving it to people, was just made up the name and then.
That's so crazy.
And how do you follow the Unplugged record? Obviously,
That's how you follow
And
it.
in
You're
utero.
unknown.
Right.
Yeah.
unknown, and then and now they're one of the biggest bands in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave Grohl, phenomenal songwriter.
Yeah, it just seems like a cool guy too.
Yeah.
Someone
You should try to get
Like
Grohl on the
that.
show.
That's good
I'm gonna-
stuff.
You should have Dave Grohl and Ozzy on the same night.
I was gonna have him tonight, but I figured we'll just do this.
And James Hetfield
Yeah.
in the Tony Iommi.
Ozzy got caught up at the airport.
Oh, he did. Yeah. All right, so you got one more, right? What's your last one? Is that it? We're done.
Yeah.
Well, sure, we all like a lot of records. We go all night.
All right, so
We got to wrap this thing up, though.
what band did you play in Gainesville?
What band did I play in a ton of bands. Okay, I'll just say this one real fast. Rendisfus. You know why we got the name? Because
God
our
bless
singer, our singer was like, what's this Rendisfus? And Jonathan Jackson in Gainesville. And his girlfriend at the time said, "You idiot, that's rendezvous." But he was just mispronouncing it.
He was
as
mispronouncing
Rendisfus.
Rendisfus.
So we all start laughing. We're like, "Oh, that's the band name, Rendisfus." But of course, all our flyers said rendezvous. So,
Yeah.
but some of the best musicians. Jason Nix played drums. One of the best drummers.
Yeah.
He taught me to play drums. And one of the best drummers I ever had. But anyway,
And then you had Jay Daniels.
Jay Daniels.
on guitar.
Yeah.
Jay Daniels and who else? I can't remember anymore. And eventually Tony Hart played eventually in there. But all right, so we were talking about our first bands.
And then Chris, was Stain your first band?
No, Stan was not my first band. I think that my first band was Miguel, and it was a band called Rapture. I think he came up with the name. because we practiced in the church. Do you know?
Oh, okay.
So, and I guess it was like right after my father had died, my mom still had the church. The church was still new. We just stopped having services in it and wanted to be respectful. So I want to come up with a name that would be, Christian friendly type. So Rapture was what we decided on.
That's interesting, man.
Yeah, so that's
I never knew that
I learned how
about
to
you
play
before.
drums, and he learned how to play, the guitar. I think with that endeavor.
All right, Kurt, what's your first one?
My first band was a band called Ruckus. Rukus.
If yours starts with an
We
R,
just
dude.
must have been the time. We
Dude,
were,
it's all,
and we just wanted to be high school rock
Yeah.
stars. That's all.
Yeah.
And Carl, yours.
Mine would have been Dixon Drive, which harkens back to the party house in Gainesville, Georgia on Dixon Drive. Scott was my roommate. Chris partied there. A lot of people in Gainesville partied there. The punk rockers, the metalheads, the skaters, everybody. It was just a blues rock band, but we, after kind of all that craziness happened, we started a band and with Bud Harris and Michael Smith and Russell Reed and
Russell Reed, yeah. He's,
and it was
going to
it was a real Springsteen, Dylan, kind of Led Zeppelin, but you got some CCR and you got some Leonard Skinner. It was just fun.
Me and Carl had so much in common because we always played drums. We lived together. I'd moved to an apartment, then he literally moved downstairs. I was
right
I got a new
below
neighbor.
you. I was right below you.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like, my old roommate randomly moves underneath me. You were following me.
And I didn't even know that was your apartment. That was the one that was available, and I wanted a ground floor apartment. So.
Did you all ever share bunk beds or anything like that?
Oh yeah. I got a guest room tonight.
But like every time you came out of Scott's room, you came out of the closet.
Oh,
At the old house.
Yeah, like that.
Because you had to go through a closet to go to his room, then come out of the closet, go out of his room to the kitchen. So.
On that note,
sounds like a
thank you
comedy.
guys for being here. This was an awesome episode. We weren't going to do this tonight, but we're doing this tonight. We got Nathan's not here, so we feel like we can do whatever we want. It's been fun.
It's been a lot.
No rules.
It's been interesting. We're all going to
been
do the
very
intro
interesting.
together with our shirts off.
Yeah,
So
I say we do it. You can attach the mic to my chest hair.
A polar dive
Yes.
into Lake Lanier.
absolutely. Maybe a little chilly, but we'll do it on camera. All right, guys. Thank you, man. This is great.
Thank you, Scott.
See you guys.
Thank you, Scott.